as you'll notice, if you look around, you see what are all these empty chairs. And if you look at the clock, it says 8:30, which means our students are just about getting ready, getting out of their beds, doing all of those things, or attending classes somewhere else on campus. Good morning and welcome. My name is Anand Iyer, and I'm Director of the DCMME, the Dow Center for the Management of Manufacturing Enterprises here at Krannert. Welcome to the center, welcome to Krannert. You may already have met Mary Peelock. If you don't see Mary here, it's because there's a lot of coordination going on at the back end, as you will well imagine. And you probably have also met Belinda McBride. So these are the guys getting everything going. I'm just here keeping you entertained and seeing that we all have a great day. We're very happy that you came. There are a lot more companies that have agreed to come and on their way, making their way through the system. But we thought we'll get started on time because this is a conference dealing with operations, and that's the least we could do. But the very first event, which I think is an important component, is the success of the center and the success of such initiatives wouldn't happen without an active encouragement and participation from the Dean's office. So I'd like to welcome the Dean of the Krannert School of Management, Dean Rick Coach.
Thank you. Thanks, Anand. Somebody's going to clap for it then. Pay attention to that, guys. When you have that kind of awkward silence, that's when you need what I call a seed clapper. That's somebody plant in the audience in order to do that. Great to see everybody. It's pretty early. I think Anand was a little charitable with our students. I think most of them are still fast asleep. Some of them may be just getting in from the night before. That's probably tonight more likely than on Thursday night. It used to be the weekend for when I was back in undergraduate days in the 60s. Weekend was Saturday, Sunday. Now it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I don't know how they did that, but they added a new day to the weekend. In fact, most of our classes are either Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. It accommodates that, I guess. Big weekend. Got this great conference here, and Anand and Mary did just a terrific job with the center, with this conference. Couldn't be more happy with the way they put on a really timely and interesting event that people get a lot out of over the years. We've done about it. Who would have predicted we'd be here in the middle of a worldwide economic crisis, bona fide economic crisis, the word not used lightly, but used appropriately here in this situation, sadly. I got a good friend that happens to be down in Bloomington, a city down south of here a ways, venture capitalist, and he was quoted the other day with an interesting viewpoint. He said, I've lost millions of dollars here, and have some investors that are pretty unhappy. He said, this is fascinating. I've never seen anything like this in my life. So maybe that's one way to look at it, huh? I don't know, but he's been able to do that. And I think as far as individual retirement accounts go, it's a Bill Clinton approach. Don't look, don't tell. If you don't have to, just let it go by. And look in a couple of years down the road here. I think particularly thank our sponsors. We have the non-Bob Euchre seats up front here, the front row. Actually, that's just to get people to sit there. Even though you folks are a little more senior and have been out of school for a while, nobody still sits in the front row in these things. So happy to have you up there. Thanks for all your support, everybody. It really is a value added activity, in my opinion. When you look at our operations management area here at Krannert, in particular, it's absolutely the best. It's stellar. You can't find a ratings, rankings publication out there that doesn't have, if they do, OM, operations management rankings, doesn't have us in the top 3. And that would be the other 2 would be MIT and Carnegie Mellon. It's because of the great traditions here, but it's more a fact reflecting our great faculty, great students, and kind of a small fact. I guess a lot of people don't know. We're one of the few business schools in the country still that has not only a large contingent of operations management and operations research faculty who are terrific. We also have a full array of quantitative business analysis faculty. called the QBA faculty. A lot of the business schools around the country have whittled that down, folded those folks somewhere else. We have 8 or 9, I think, faculty in that area, and of course they're complementary and do a lot in optimization and in our quantitative methods foundations for all of our areas, especially operations. We also have a fairly large MIS group, still weathered the storm there, so they've kept a good group there, and we've got quantitative people kind of spread out through the business functions of finance, accounting, marketing, some of those as well. So, when you look at our niche, it's quantitative foundations, analytical methods for making business decisions. And I know you folks realize how important that is because you're doing it every day. And I hope our students come out with a framework for looking at problems that can address a wide variety of issues and gives them flexibility here. Also, I think if you're looking at our students, and hopefully you do from time to time for hiring purposes, I still think we got the best work ethic out there with our students. And we hear that time and time again. Now, I'm sure there's an odd exception now and then, but normally the vast majority of our students will give you one heck of a return on your investment in them, which I think is a great thing. There's a few alumni out here who've demonstrated that. I think over the years, that's why you're here, successful folks. I talked about economy a little bit. We've got a big presentation Monday morning on this for the university. Our faculty, specifically in economics, finance, and accounting, have been very active in interacting with the media and presenting workshops. And we did actually a program about a week ago for the students, special program, and filled up Fowler Hall with 400 seats. Nobody was required to show up on a Friday, so that shows the students have an interest here. And so we're trying to do what we can there. And if I had an answer that could correct all this, I guess I wouldn't be sharing it here. I'd put it in some kind of a copyright format or a book or something, and then share it with people. But it's uncharted territory, as you all know. We're in waters here that people just really haven't been before. There's never been a credit meltdown, and with all the ripple effects that we've seen happen quite like this, and because we're more global than ever, it's a worldwide deal. So that's all interacting, as you know. So it's a very complicated situation. So we are looking at it. I think helped educate some people. With our congressional delegation from Indiana called me right before the finance rescue bill. Rescue much, right? At least yet. And we had about half a dozen of our folks on a conference call with the congressional delegation. We was trying to explain what we thought was going on there. And then our congressman called me next Monday after that first vote turned down the bailout. And he actually hopped on a plane and came over here and met with us in our conference room over here on the 6th floor. And so we talked further on what we thought was the situation and what could be done. I don't think he listened to our recommendations, but I think he understood the situation better. But it's really not just a financial issue. As I mentioned, this is a ripple effects type of a situation, and supply chain and issues related to operations, I think, are right in the middle of this whole puzzle. And we're going to have new issues to face with the health of a small supplier that you're depending on. What do you do if they can't deliver? What do you do if they're out of cash? And that, of course, is going to get all these things just seem to impact each other and bounce around and cause a general problem and things like earnings and things like this that we're all concerned about. So I just, if you ask me what's going on, I don't really know for sure, but I think we're already in a recession in at least half the country, maybe more, and hopefully it won't get worse than that and won't last more than a year or so. But it's a challenging time, so I think this conference is a good place to be for you. I think it's a good area to address some of these problems and issues. I think it's an area where you can at least protect yourselves a little bit from some of the draconian consequences that could happen if you just do business as usual, which I hope people aren't doing these days. And I know there's some good things that will be shared with you and some ideas that should be pretty helpful. Just a quick comment on Cranert. You know, we're doing great as far as the rankings and that kind of thing. We mentioned OM and quant methods. Overall, the last U.S. News undergrad rankings had a 17th in the world. And we did a little study. I'm chairman of the board of ACSP, which accredits business schools. And, there are about 12,000 business schools around the world. So being number 17, not too bad. We're in West Lafayette, Indiana. And so we've done pretty well there. We are concerned about what this financial situation will do to our university. Thankfully, the state of Indiana, I've lived in the state for 25 years, and you know, when the things are going great, we don't seem to be quite up there at the top of the mountain. So everybody's complaining, you know, how come we're not having 8% salary increases? But when things are going down the drain, we don't seem to be, knock on wood, quite down to the lowest level that some people reach when that type of thing happens. I'm just on an accreditation visit. Part of my job with this accreditation group, I do that. At Virginia Tech, nice program, good folks. The state of Virginia is really bleeding. They're really bad shape. And one of the people I was talking to had an interesting point. He said, if you're in a state that highly relies on sales tax and has no income tax, you're going to get hit real quick with the situation of state revenue. And then, of course, that spills out into the state universities and other programs, you know, bigger chuck holes next year. That's something that we don't look forward to. But, you know, it'll eventually impact Purdue, it'll impact IU, and, you know, we'll be faced with some of the same issues a lot of your companies are faced with, you know, cost cuts, cost reductions, more efficient operations, something operations people are concerned about. And we'll consult with Anant, and he'll fix everything. And, but he probably will have some good suggestions for us. But you know, right now, we're kind of just cautiously watching what is going to happen, and we've got some contingency planning. I'm concerned 40% of Craner's budget is non-state allocations and non-tuition money, so that's, I think last I looked, we're 20 to 25% down in private donations right now. They're close, Cindy, would you say? 20%? Something like that, which is not a good thing. And, you know, we operate in a counter-cyclical fashion with our admissions in our, you know, the kids who want to come back to school, especially in graduate school, for a while. So when the economy starts to trend downward, you actually see more applicants for our programs. And that happens. We have a record number of applications for this year coming into here at IU, and we had much more of an higher acceptance rate than we normally have. So we've got more students than we expected. We got over 40,000 students on this campus. Cranert has about 200 more students than we expected to have in an undergraduate program. But my prediction is that it's like that proverbial U-shaped curve. It'll reach a point when if things are bad enough, it'll drop off dramatically, and then we'll have problems with students who can't pay the tuition, would like to come to school, can't. What are we going to do about that? And we'll have a whole array of issues that we'll have to face there. But, you know, we'll do what we can. We strongly believe in serving the state and the world. And, again, I think this center and this conference reflect that service mentality that we have for folks, and we'll continue to fight the good fight, just like you people are out there. So, got about 2 or 3 minutes. Happy to answer any questions about anything that I may or may not have an answer to. But anybody like to ask anything out there? No, short of that, enough. Thanks. I'll turn it back over to Anant. Have a good day.
Thank you, Rick. So again, good morning and welcome. And as Rick set the stage, the title of this conference, which we chose actually several months ago, is Manufacturing in Transition. And we deliberately picked a sort of vague topic because in transition can be due to various factors. And as we'll see through the course of the day, each of you are facing different factors driving this transition. What I thought I'd do, we have sort of a packed day with a number of different looks both from an industry perspective, a slightly more organic view as to what is happening out there today within your companies. We have some faculty presentations where the center sponsors research that's done by faculty. And part of my role is to try to tie these things together in a fashion in which each one of you can look at this and say, what am I doing here and what do I take away from this at the end of the day? Attending these seminars, on the one hand, it's sort of a social process of building connections. On the other hand, it's sort of a deeply personal process of saying, I'm sitting here while everybody else is talking, what am I getting out of this and what can I do to connect? Part of what we're going to try to do is have mechanisms whereby we've put in buffer time where we're going to open up for discussion, for your input, etc. And in some ways, one of the reasons for conferences like this is both for us as faculty as well as for our students to learn from you. So it's a sort of a two-way street, and I hope we succeed with that process. I'm going to start by getting you first to. As I mentioned before, the conferences don't happen without a terrific staff. So again, as I mentioned, Mary's out there and Melinda out there trying to get all this synchronized and running. Without them, these conferences don't happen. So I first want to, if you see them, please acknowledge it. This is something that is absolutely true. The worst thing you can do is put a faculty member in charge of the details of transactions. So that's why you don't see me there. I understand various things that I'm not good at. Sorry. It wasn't supposed to go from the start to the end. Give me just a second while I get this set up.
Thanks, Bridget.
Okay, so I want to give you a quick overview of what the center does and what it's been doing last year, and then move into some of the topics for discussion today. If you think about the goal of the center is to, as I say, nurture is a very important word within a university, because as you will realize, when students come into a business school, they basically, of course, everybody wants to be CEO from day one. Okay. Now we've got to sort of get them to realize that you sort of got to earn those stripes, and these things don't happen where when you show up you become CEO. So the particular aspect that we're trying to do is to get them to really understand what it means to think about managing manufacturing, what it means to manage a global supply chain, and how we get them really excited about that aspect of things. This is important because if you look, even though one might think, an economist might say, people consider all the options and they optimize and pick the best decision, decision making that students come up with is slightly different. Somebody tells them, this is a great company. End of story. That's the company they go to. Now, the question is, who is telling them this is a great company, and who's telling them what the opportunities are and what they can do? That's the role that the center plays with respect to these two topics, manufacturing management and global supply chain management. Now, this is particularly useful at a place like Kramer because unlike many other business schools, we still have a large fraction of students with interest in this area. So we already start with perhaps about 30 to 35% of the class getting a concentration in manufacturing operations and supply chain management. So we already start with sort of a pool of students with an interest. But what we do as a center is to continue to maintain that throughout the 2 years they're here in the program. And how does that happen? It happens through their involvement in center projects, and I'll give you a few examples in a few minutes. It happens through planned trips. You'll be surprised how many students haven't really seen things being made. At best, they would have seen, Smithsonian's How Things Are Made video. It's a lot different when they actually go and see the decision-making involved in getting a product out. So planned trips play a very important role. I know that Tom has coordinated for us for the students to take a trip out to Kimberly-Clark's operation. These are really important, and anything you can do, any offers you can have, can give us with respect to getting that to happen would be great. We'll coordinate the center, get the students out, etc. Get them to really understand what it means to run an operation. We create newsletters, and newsletters are mechanisms whereby we offer our students an opportunity to interview a manager, both undergraduate as master's students. We have faculty talking about visits they've made to companies and discussions. We have general topics that we try to cover to keep students thinking about issues related to managing an operation. Executive presentations, you'll see if within your packet, there's sort of an annual report, and if you just browse through it, you'll see a number of managers coming through, talking to the students one-on-one. That's an occasion where there is one company, a senior manager, talking directly to students. We spring for pizza and some pop, etc., to get the students to come in the evening, and that's a way for us to have a direct connection. This is all part of our education process, and we clearly are sitting in a university. Many other things are happening, but this is really important. This is what gets us to get a product of students out there who are enthusiastic. One of the things to note is that all of these conferences run on volunteer effort. All the students out there are volunteering their time, and the only reason that happens is because we've kept them primed through the year, thinking about these issues. One of the things that we do need to acknowledge is our corporate partners. While we sit within a business school, while we sit within a public university, one of the things to sort of quickly realize, one of the things that we realize, any of us who take over as a director of a center, is you're given the keys and then everybody leaves you, okay? And one of the things they do is they say, well, if you're going to be doing projects, then it's valuable to someone. And whoever it's valuable to is going to cover your costs. Okay? Now, what do these costs mean? All of these primarily are dealing with keeping the students interested, covering their tuition, giving them assistantships, and getting them involved in projects. So we're a self-supporting center within the university. I'll give you some numbers in terms of the role played by the university. Here are a number of companies. We thank all of you, and there are many more. Well, part of our goal and part of the main role that Mary and I play is to figure out a way whereby the center becomes a value proposition. We're not thinking of this as philanthropy. Those days are gone. Okay. There is a philanthropic component to this when you get involved with the university. But as a center, at least I firmly believe that part of our role is that the value delivered through projects, through involvement, etc., justifies the connection we make. And each one of you as companies may want a slightly different way in which you'd like this to work. Part of our goal is to find the best way, the way for this to be to deliver a lot of value to you. We believe that there are a number of people who've been with the center for several years, and if you talk to them, we do try quite a bit to find a way to make this work. This being a university and this being a center, this is the place for us, as I tell various companies, this is the place for your sandbox. Okay? The consequences of a student messing up are contained within the walls of this building. Okay? But the consequences of a student messing up after they're in your operation are not contained within the walls of this building. So the best time for you to sort of understand what the student will do, etc., is while they're here, because that's what an educational institution does. It gets students to make a lot of mistakes, but to learn from them. And so we want to thank all these companies, because certainly without your involvement, certainly the center wouldn't exist. One of the things that happens, the result of all of this nurturing and all of the talks from managers, etc., is a lot of student interest. This is one of the things we've been doing is keeping data regarding students who've completed certain options, and the option corresponds to completing a series of courses. So there are about 69 students who complete these two options. Just to get you a perspective, this is 69 to 70 out of a total graduating class of 200. So this is, if you look at the fraction of students focused on manufacturing and operations, in most business schools, it's under 2%. Okay? So we are a very different business school, and this is important for us to continue to leverage. You can also see that there are ebbs and flows in interest in these topics. And as you can see, with respect to interest in manufacturing over a 10-year history, we've had peaks and valleys. But part of our goal is to continue to get this to keep working. And I think, did I lose something? You lost one. Oh, okay. So what I do want to do is to get you to think about a number of initiatives that we are involved in and that you'll see today. One of the things is the student poster competition. So after about the first hour and a half or so, 2 hours, we're going to have a student poster competition. This is where students talk about what they did during their internships in various companies. There are two groups of students, undergraduate students and master's students. We strongly encourage you to go out there and grill them a little bit as to what exactly did you do, what was the value proposition, etc. Because we think this is the way they get to stand up and tell people what they did and what they bring to the table. This also gives, it serves two purposes. It gives them a forum to talk about what they did, but it's also set up in such a way that all the students in the rest of the school wander around and they look at what are students doing over the summer. And as a company, you can get an idea of what are the expectations of an intern who comes into your operation by looking at what they're doing for various companies. I think we started this about 3 years ago. This has been something that has that has allowed us to build quite a bit of momentum. And in some ways, there's a little bit of one-upmanship going on amongst the students. Well, I did all of this stuff, and what did you do, etc. And we think competition is great, and this is a great way for us to get that going. We have a case competition that's usually held in the spring conference. We have a spring conference coming up in February of next year. This is a case competition that's open to all schools, both across the country and globally. So this is, last time we had about 20 groups participating, and this is something that we host and we give away a bunch of prizes. Student internships, we certainly, these are things that where you interact directly with the student, and you'll hear about in the poster competition. Plan trips we've talked about before, newsletters. Manager interviews, some of you will be approached by students to see if you'd like to chat with them. This is, again, if you get an opportunity and if you have a little bit of time, please do that. That would be useful. Finally, graduate assistant. The GA is the graduate assistant. I'll talk to you a little bit about projects involved. The two conferences are, you see the picture for the October Fall Conference. We'll have a solo picture today where we'll have we'll present all of you, as well as a lot of topics. One of the things we do is after the presentations, we have a streaming video of most of the presentations, or we'll have the PowerPoints available. So students and anybody who could not attend has it available. In the spring, we have, well, we call February spring here in West Lafayette, but we're modelers, so it's a concept. Last time we focused on operational risk in the global supply chain. Each year we pick a slightly different topic, and one of the things you'll see us do here, perhaps subtly, perhaps not so subtly, is sort of checking which of the topics resonate so that we can focus on that for the spring conference. I want to spend a few minutes telling you, giving you sort of a brief synopsis, brief summary of some of the projects, active projects where we're working with groups to try to deliver a specific product. One of the products, and I'm going to give you more detail on this in the second half of this presentation, but one of the projects that we've been involved in the last 2 years is what we call a Global Manufacturing Competitiveness Survey of Indiana manufacturing companies. Now, if you look at each of these, you would obviously ask why Indiana manufacturing companies. That's where the money came from. Okay, so that's a simple reason. And why Indiana? Another reason is if you count the number of manufacturing companies in Indiana, Indiana is still a very big manufacturing state. There are about 12,000 manufacturing companies. Manufacturing accounts for a significant portion of the state GDP. This is important. What we've been doing is working with funding from an accounting firm called Katz, Sapper & Miller. They were scheduled to present, but we had the person who was scheduled to present wasn't available, so we've had to scrap that presentation, but I'll sort of provide you details of the survey. Part of the thing that's interesting about this, and we were talking about it over dinner yesterday, is the goal of this survey is to get some fairly detailed descriptions of decisions of sort of recorded performance in terms of financial metrics, the details of running processes and choices regarding productivity improvement, etc., data regarding the details of the operations such as inventory turns and money spent in training, and from that group, try to separate out high-performing companies and see what we can learn from them. What's interesting, and I'll give you this presentation, but as I was putting it together, I said, well, we just had this final presentation 3 weeks ago, and the world has changed today. So I'm not sure if doing what they did last month, the summary last month, is what's going to be good today. However, for us at the center, we think about it from a process perspective. At that point in time, given that environment, we can identify some specific steps they took to leverage that economic environment. Part of what this survey has done is to allow us over time to get an idea of what a company